Okay, so uh, my presentation is titled "Performing Affections." Isabelle Huppert in Claude Chabrol'S Madame Bovary. So this presentation will follow in the footsteps of Farah and Julia's contributions, and it will focus on the adaptation of the celebrated novel Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, made by the French director Claude Chabrol, 1991, and starring Isabelle Huppert. And in particular, I will concentrate on Huppert's performance so as to highlight the peculiarities of this adaptation, which is marked by an attention to physical sensations and affections. So when Madame Bovary was released, Isabelle Huppert's star persona had already been shaped. And of course, with the expression star persona, I refer to the very well-known theory shaped by Richard Dyer, of which I am sure everybody is familiar with. And Huppert, in the early 90s, had already played a series of female characters characterized by unstable nervous balance, immoral and often perverted instincts. And these characters were sharing some of the characteristics of the femme fatale, the dark lady. In particular, the dimension of seduction, eroticism mixed up with a destiny of death. And in particular, I'll quote only a couple of examples taken from the filmography Chabrol and Huppert made together. First one is Violette Nozière, and the second one, Une affaire de femme. In the first film, I am playing the clip without the sound. Hopefully, yes. In the first film, Violette Nozière, which is set in the 30s, the protagonist is a young girl dreaming of a better life. And in order to achieve this better life, she doesn't hesitate, first of all, to become a prostitute. And secondly, and more importantly, would say, she does not hesitate to poison her parents. So her father dies, her mother survives, and she's arrested, but ultimately she's pardoned so that she can live the life of a perfect bourgeois. In the second film, which is Une affaire de femme, released in 1988, Huppert plays the protagonist, again, Marie Latour, in a story which is inspired by the true story of this lady called Marie-Louise Géraud, which was one of the last women to be beheaded in France in 1943. And here, the Marie Latour of the film, she cooperates with the Vichy regime. She becomes rich by illegally provoking abortions, and ultimately she's denounced by her husband, and she, as I said, she ends up by being condemned to the guillotine. Oh, I forgot to play the clip. Sorry, I'll do that right now. This is the final sequence where she is walking towards their destiny. Ecco, in both films, Huppert's performance is marked by a strong physical presence. The two characters appear to be written literally inside the body of the actress, thanks to a series of gestures, of postures, of attitudes, of facial expressions. So it is the body, even more than the dialogue, that defines the characters played by Huppert. And same idea with Madame Bovary. And I would say, I would even say that in this film, this process of embodiment finds its climax. The Emma Bovary shaped by Chabrol and by Huppert enhances the carnality of Flaubert's character through a series of perceptive elements linked to the feels of heat and of touch, caught by the camera that stays very close to Huppert's face, so as to capture the details of nearly every physical sensation she experiences in consequence of her emotions: sweat, blushing, tears. As it is described in the classic texts, from Galen to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, passions are linked to physical secretions. When words are not capable of anymore to express a feeling, tears, whispers, effusions come to the foreground. Sentir avant de penser. Feeling comes first, then there is the intellect, as Rousseau puts it in his Les Confessions. And it is also as well as if Chabrol and Huppert had read Jean Starobinski's essay on Madame Bovary. The French title is L'échelle de température, but I couldn't find an example, an image of the French original text, so I'm using the Italian translation of this book. L'échelle de température, in any case, is the original title. In this essay, the French philosopher Starobinsky classifies the lexicon of sensations and descriptions by Flaubert in Madame Bovary, specifically, according to the pose of heat and coldness. So precisely this sensation appear to shape the body and the performance of the actress, as we can see. And I'm showing you a series of images, and then if I if I succeed, I'll try to show you a clip. So here you have taste. I don't know if you can see it. The image is not terrific, but she is drinking from a liquor from this small glass, and she's licking the glass. This is the first meeting she has with Charles Bovary, that she will marry, of course. Again, touch, taste. And then we have tears. So she cries all along the film. She cries. She always, almost always, reacts with tears to what happens to her. Ecco, this is one of the final moments of the film. And then we have physical suffering. Again, it is her face, it is her body, her eyes, her lips, even her skin that offer us the perception, literally the perception of what is happening to Emma Bovary. Ecco. These are images from the very last sequence when she is dying, because she has poisoned herself. And if I may, I'll try to show you the entire clip because it makes sense to see it. Let's see if I can do it. Allora. I fear that it won't work, but I'll try. No, infatti. No, it doesn't work. Okay, I was come non detto. Okay. Anyway, you have seen the images from my PowerPoint. Ecco. Allora, so you have seen how she expresses through her facial expressions, sorry for the play on words, her emotions that are literally written on her face. I would even say sculpted on her face. Ecco, these signs of feelings, these signs of sensations are also accompanied by a number of images that move in an apparently different direction. Sometimes we see her. Ecco, this was the last one, the last image of her suffering. Ecco, sometimes we see her with an expression of an absence. We cannot immediately read her feelings. This is an example. Ecco, this is another example of her being absent. Pretty often during the film, we see Huppert with her eyes closed. Here again, I have a series of examples. In different moments of the films, if you have seen the film, you will recognize the different steps of the story. This is when she is together with her first lover. This is towards the end of the film. And this is one of the last images that we see of her. So it is, in these moments, it is as if she was overwhelmed by the strength of sensations. And it is as if she wanted to soften them, even to erase them, to cancel them. There is a shift, no? There is a shift from the excess of passions and of physicality shown in the first images I showed you, and the opposite, the absent expression and the eyes closed. So here, in this case, in this last case, it is the absence of feelings that she plays on screen. Her face becomes unreadable and merely visible, something that cannot be interpreted but only looked at. So in this way, I think it is useful, in this sense, I think it is useful to quote Jacquemont and in his famous work, Du visage cinéma, where he says, where he describes, where he poses this opposition between the visible face and the readable face in film. And he comments on the visible face, and he says that this face does not need to speak, nor echo. Something went away. Allora, but I'm translating I'm reading the quote in French and then I'll translate it. Le visage lisible n'a pas besoin de parler ni pour s'imposer ni pour exister. Ah non, it's okay. Il fait signe sans être issu de signes, il se fonde sur l'immédiateté de l'apparaître. No, dunque, quickly in English it sounds as the readable face doesn't need not to speak nor to not to impose itself, not to exist. It becomes a sign without being made out of signs. It is based on the immediacy of showing itself out. So the visible face is something that stays there, that remains ambiguous, that subtracts itself to a simple and ambiguous reading. And when speaking about her performance, it is Huppert herself that describes her play as something that goes beyond the idea of abstraction. In this quote, this comes from an interview. She describes her own way of performing as in this way. She says, I do not always understand what I play. Bob Wilson said about me that I could even think abstract. I could even get to abstraction. And she goes on, even when one speaks about performing as a form of embodiment, it is also a form of abstraction, which is not an obstacle to show off the different facets of one's personality. E quindi, ecco, in conclusion, Huppert's play moves on this threshold between showing feelings and showing the absence of feelings, between embodiment and abstraction. And in so doing, she's able to translate on screen the character created by Flaubert thanks to a performance that is centered on her body, and most of all on her face, when it is crossed by the stream of passion, as well as when it turns towards an inner, less evident dimension. In both cases, affections are the key to a filmic adaptation that is based on the qualities of an extraordinary performance, and an adaptation that leaves aside words, I would say, so as to privilege, sorry, so as to privilege bodies, the feelings, and the senses of the actress. Thank you for your attention.